But top 5 intriguing coaching matchups in 2022. This is not just a non-conference. Some of it is conference matchups. But I thought these were, especially some that we'll be seeing for the first time. I think all these, except for one, we're seeing for the first time. Number 5, Luke Fickell versus Sam Pittman, Cincinnati and Arkansas on September 3rd. Look, these are, this is a young coach on the rise in Luke Fickell and kind of an old warhorse, Sam Pittman, who, found his way into the perfect situation for him at Arkansas. I'm looking forward to this one. Arkansas should be good again. Cincinnati, has to replace, a couple of guys, including Desmond Ridder. But this is a pretty good early season matchup coaching-wise between Luke Fickell and Sam Pittman.
Yeah, I'd say since he's got to replace more than just a couple, though. Yeah. I mean, a historic draft class, they lost a lot, and to go on the run that they did, being the first Power 5 to break through in the or non-Power 5 to break through in the playoff, even though they're soon to be Power 5. I mean, I'm very curious about Cincinnati and how Luke Fickell has built this up, whether it's built to last and be consistent every year, or we're going to see a downswing because of just the amount of talent that they lost, because they were very well set up for last year. But, yeah, these are two really good coaches, as you said. Pittman just got his extension. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. He's got Arkansas on a upward trajectory. It's just hard because of where they are and who they have to play on a regular basis. But, yeah, this should be a very fun game, and it's be a huge win for, I think, either program as far as an early season confidence booster and momentum builder. Whoever wins this game, I think, will have that.
Yeah. Number 4, Dana Holgerson versus Joey McGuire. This should be what I'm sure both schools hope is the first of many, because they hope that their coaches are there and successful for a long time. But to me, Joey McGuire in his first season, and Dana Holgerson, clearly, I don't even know what season he's in, but he's been a head coach for a while now. Similar but different personalities. They're both fiery in a way. Joey McGuire's much more kind of a rah-rah guy. Dana Holgerson's fiery, rambunctious, but kind of looking forward to this one for the first time, which will be the first time of a lot of times, since they're going to be conference foes in a year.
Well, for Joey McGuire, everything's the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, he's brand new, but, I mean, yeah, they're definitely opposite. I mean, they're both loud, but Joey McGuire's is screaming, let's go, and sunshine pumping, and I don't mean that as a negative. I just mean he's very positive, whereas I think Dana is a little bit grouchier. But if he needs to yell, he can yell. Yeah, this is an intriguing game. This is a wild game last year, and Houston should be pretty good. I think that they're a little bit slept on. And for Texas Tech, I don't know what to expect. I said the other day that I feel like bowl game minimum, and I had some people balk at that. Like Grayson, really, it's his first year, and I'm like, they made a bowl game last year with an interim coach. Like, why? And everybody's back. Everybody's back except for Eric Eason-Kama and Dawson Deaton and maybe a couple of other people. But outside of that, they didn't lose like a historic draft class or anything. They should be reloaded, and I'm just interested to see how Joey McGuire is as a head coach as far as a decision maker. As far as if it's 4th and 1, it's at the 50-yard line, is he going for it, or is he good about making those calls? Like Dave Aranda was great about that. He was great at calling their shots last year. And Joey's got plenty of experience at the high school level, but I mean, it's a different game. It's a different game in college. It's a tougher game in college, and I'm really curious to see kind of the ups and downs that he faces, being back in that big chair. But, yeah, this should be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Dave Aranda is really good at it because he has a really good defense, so he can go, all right, we'll go for it. I'm pretty sure we can at least hold him to a field goal. So, number 3, Nick Saban versus Steve Sarkisian on September 10th. This is the only repeat from yesterday's list of intriguing matchups, but this is Steve Sarkisian's first time that he'll face his former boss and Nick Saban as a head coach. So, and no former, until last year, nobody had done it, and then it happened twice with Jimbo and Kirby Smart, both beating Nick Saban. So maybe it's out, but again, this will be interesting to see, what Texas does against Alabama. I think they'll, like we said yesterday, I think they'll play well in this game. I think that what's going to hurt Texas is what Alabama's strength is and what Texas' weakness is, Alabama will have a great defensive line. Texas' offensive line is going to be their weakness this year, no matter, even if it's better than it was last year. I think that's what's going to be the swing of this game. And it's still 3 months away.
Yeah, I mean, we got a ways to go until really breaking it down. But yeah, I mean, this is a fun matchup on paper, and should be a fun game once it arrives. I mean, I know Texas is kind of embracing, I think in some ways, the fact that there's expectations, but maybe everybody's sort of tapped the brakes a little bit on just what they're expecting. And so, yeah, there are expectations, but they're not crowning themselves Big 12 champions before the year starts. I think they realize that they got a lot of work to do. They seem to have had a really successful offseason, but it is Bama. So, yeah, I mean, this will be fascinating to see, how close it is or how close it's not. And if it's not close, I mean, I would expect that means good things for Alabama. But, Texas is going to be very explosive, and Sarkisian's a good offensive head coach. But I do have questions about pretty much all the rest of it at this point. So, yeah, I would lean Bama here, and I'm sure I still will here in 3 months. But, yeah, this will be cool to see the coach or the mentor versus the protege, so to speak. Yeah.
Number 2, Lane Kiffin versus Brian Kelly on October 22nd. These are kind of two larger-than-life personalities when it comes to the coaching world. They'll be facing each other a lot as long as Lane Kiffin's at Ole Miss. I don't think Brian Kelly's going away from LSU anytime soon, but Lane Kiffin, he's a wild card. But this one is interesting in that there's going to be a lot of personality build up to this one, and these teams both should be, I think LSU's going to be pretty good. I mean, I think they're going to contend for the conference title maybe this year, but I think this should be a good team, and I think that Ole Miss should be, I don't know if they'll be as good as they were last year. They might be. We'll see how Jackson Dart or Luke Altmaier does at quarterback, but should be a good game and an interesting coaching matchup because both these guys are pretty darn good coaches.
Yeah, I mean, there was Lane Kiffin trolling him for his dancing when that happened a few months ago. But, yeah, I don't think LSU is going to be competing for championships this year by any stretch. They got a lot of work to do. Kelly's a good coach, so give him time, and I'm sure he'll restack that roster. But this should be an Ole Miss win on paper. And, I'm sure Kiffin will have some fun with it in the build-up to it. But how much Kelly plays back, would be interesting to see if he plays back at all. I mean, he's the troll king, the portal king, whatever you want to call him. He's entertaining, and certainly LSU with a new look is a little bit more interesting than they were last year. That's for sure. So, yeah, this will be interesting. I
almost left this one out, but I felt it was when I realized it was probably too obvious. Number 1, Nick Saban versus Jimbo Fisher on October 8th. It's the game we'll all be looking forward to the most. I mean, even though now they say they've moved past it, one of them is going to beat the other on October 8th, and we'll see what happens after that. So, the game is in Tuscaloosa this year, so that should be different. But A&M won there before with Johnny Manziel, so it's not completely impossible. And if Jimbo Fisher is really making this team better, maybe beating Alabama 2 years in a row is the way to take that step. Not maybe, but definitely. Like if you want to take over the conference, you're probably going to have to be at Alabama twice in a row, which people don't really do.
No, and, beating Alabama hadn't really been their problem as much as it is beating the other teams once they beat Alabama. So, yeah, I mean, this is early enough in the season where it could, definitely put A&M on a different trajectory that they've been on for a while. I mean, they've been steadily building up and getting better, and they've, beaten Bama and had some other big wins. But, it's being in early October, it's not going to be one of those. It's like a deciding factor in how the rest of the season goes necessarily, but it will create a fork in the road for which, for where both teams go. I mean, A&M to go down to Tuscaloosa and get a win would be massive, but there will be a lot of articles written about this one, not even game week, but in the next few months, I'm sure we'll see more and more articles. So the anticipation level will build, and by the time it arrives, I mean, I just hope both teams are actually, hopefully they're both undefeated, so it makes it that much more of a bigger matchup, but we will see. I mean, that's early enough that both should be, I would think, but maybe not. But yeah, that's going to have all sorts of talk around it just based on the head coaches, much less the teams.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Thanks to Jamie Pollard. Of course, that was a couple days ago. Of course, great stuff from